Are you attached? Well, let's find out in this video. What is attachment? You see, attachment from the experiences and awareness that I have, and this is to preface by saying that I am no spiritual teacher, and I am no master here, and I am no English expert either. So just sharing this out of the experience that I have. So what does attachment mean? I think at the end it comes down to identification to anything. But then you might wonder, what does identification mean? Or why do we even have those two words? That could just be an English thing. That could be quite honestly just synonyms. Although I would say identification, as I reflect on this more right now, is really just more or less actual. It's a step up in terms of awareness, because you're actually saying that I am this. Not to say that that's right or that's accurate, but at the end, you're still being open about that. Whereas attachment, it's like a subtle form of identification. Like, I'm not that, but I need it. But when you need something, you're implying that you are it. It's this analogy that Eckhart Tolle beautifully talks about, and it's as simple as a kid. When he's growing up and he's given a toy, the moment you'll first notice the egoic mind form, or really just the identification or the attachment really, is when the kid's given a toy, a year or two later, another kid tries to take it, kid gets upset, and then he starts crying and wailing. And why is that? Because he's attached to the toy. He feels like the toy is his. And what that implies is that the toy is a part of him. He's identifying with the toy. Notice how there's a subtle difference between identification and attachment here. So the key here is to really just first understand what the attachment word is. And then eventually, as I'm continuing to talk about this, and I'm actually quite honestly just reflecting on these words as I speak to you. None of this is scripted. None of this is planned. It's purely just on the fly. It's coming out of this present moment. So, should you be attached, or why you shouldn't be attached? Again, that's the title, right, of this video. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because I could be changing, and I'm not trying to be attached to the title of what it should be either, right? So, here's the key. The key, and it goes back to what Sadhguru, shouts out to him, says. And I do want to also preface here, and I should have maybe made that clear in the beginning, but no big deal. It's that wisdom, I think, at least with the level of awareness that I have, is truly something that is within all of us. So if I were to reference another spiritual teacher or guru, or whether I don't, I personally, or I don't think it's a big deal, because we all have rights to it. There really is no copyrighted laws that exist with the universe. There is in legal terms, but yeah, that's the simple point I just wanted to make clear. But with that being said, all that I really wanted to emphasize there was that, kind of losing the train of thought here. Yes, Sadhguru, and then, yes, he talks about selfishness as well. And he was asked, and I might make another video on this, so stay tuned for that one. But should you be shellfish? Shellfish. See? A little mouth, tongue twister. Is it okay to be selfish? Selfish. And he very beautifully responded by saying, yeah, we must all be selfish. I'll tell you why in a second. You see, as he says it, and as I've seen everywhere, we tend to be so quote-unquote selfless, right? Which is like, we must do good for the others and do service, and that's great. But even then, as I've learned from the spiritual journey, whether you do something for someone else or you don't, it really isn't that big of a deal. And it really comes down to because of the fact that even a lot of these people that are helping others, and this isn't to take away and to stop philanthropy or stop donations or stop volunteering. No, that's not the intent of what I'm saying. But the point is at the end that we tend to almost cause more harm sometimes when trying to help others when we can't even take care of ourselves. It goes back to that simple airplane logic and philosophy, which is put the mask on yourself first before you put it onto your dear ones. Because if you can't, then you're both going to get screwed over. So it's as simple as that. So with that being applied here, he basically says that being selfless is the dumbest thing in the world, as, again, he phrases this term. We must be selfish, very selfish. But it comes down to the level of awareness of selfishness. You see, it comes down to how selfish are you. For example, again, quoting or paraphrasing from what he says here. If you are selfish for yourself, and let's just say there's a free food free food place, and you go there and get food for yourself and you hoard everything else, you'd be considered selfish for yourself. But now let's just say you hoarded all that food for your family. Now you're still selfish, but it's for your family. Now let's say you did it for all the people in your town. You're selfish, because again, it's just for your town. So it comes down to selfish not really just being about you, but about how attached. Yeah, it goes back to the attachment, and this is why it's, really just a beautiful connection I'm about to make, I think, which is it comes down to how attached are you, right? So if you're purely attached to just this body and this mind, that's where you will be viewed traditionally as selfish. But again, as I just said right now, selfishness can really do exist in different ways for your family, religion, town, people, so on. So the key here is that attachment itself is not bad. And so the title itself might be a little misleading, but that's okay, because I think it really does debunk that traditional view that we have about attachment. And so it's not that you shouldn't be attached to nothing. But again, these are English words being spinned off of now, because there's this huge talk about being connected and attached, and is there a difference? And again, these are just English words, right? And I'll explain what I think about those two in a second. But I think to wrap this all up eventually, to just end the video, because I want to really just brief this up and make it clear as to what I'm really saying, which is the idea that you want to be attached to the universe. Because when you're attached to the universe, you're identified with the universe. And when you're identified with the universe, then everything is you. And when everything is you, morality doesn't exist. Like, would you question cutting down a tree? And this is what Sadhguru talks about. When you know that it's a part of you, why would you hurt yourself in that way? Would you steal from the other person their food or their money when that's actually kind of you? And again, it can be talked about from a very simple intellectual level, and that's where I feel like a lot of the New Age, and even me to an extent, people lay in with regards to just understanding at the intellectual mind level. It's cool and it's a great start, but it truly isn't the experiencing aspect of oneness. Like, we can say that we're one, but to actually experience oneness is a whole different thing. So that's the key here, and that's the biggest takeaway I want you all to take away, which is it's okay to be attached to everything, but not one thing. That is where it goes to show that your level of awareness is just more minuscule and small and closed-minded, as they would say. The idea is to be attached to everything. And then things will just be a beautiful, I'm not too sure what to say here, so I'm just adding some random words. See, I'm being conscious about what I'm even saying right now. But the point is really just expand your awareness. And so even attachment can be used in that area. Now, Sadhguru does talk about how he has a slightly different perspective on attachment versus, for example, what Eckhart Tolle says, and I think they're talking about the same thing in just slightly different words, right? And that's essentially how, with Eckhart's standpoint, Eckhart Tolle that is, you don't want to be attached to anything, because then you're attached, you're identified, and when you're identified, it's the egoic mind, but I think he's really just referring to that fixed awareness or relatively small awareness, attachment. So Sadhguru, as he says that you'd want to be fully immersed with everything that you're doing. But then he was asked in this one video, so does that mean that you should be attached? And he said, did I say that? Because I don't know. This is where it's still confusing to me with regards to what he says or Eckhart maybe mentions and how they connect or how do they disconnect. I don't know. And that's okay to say I don't know. That's something important I wanted to really emphasize to y'all too. I don't know is a beautiful possibility. So he was asked essentially when talked about or asked about this topic, this whole like new age term, which is to be detached. And he said that you'll be lifeless. And I could kind of see that if you're just detached, you're detached. The key here is to give your all to everything that you're doing in the now. And so this is going to connect actually in a way nicely to Eckhart, because he just says all the same time. He says the exact same thing, which is to give your all to this now, because that's all that you have and all that you will ever have. So that's really just the general gist of that. And so when you're giving your all to the now, I think the now is the portal to that universe, or as Sadhguru says, union with the universe, which is yoga. Now, I know I might have said a bunch of things and maybe might have confused y'all, and if I have, comment down below what you're confused about or what you'd like to be answered. I can either respond in the comments or make another video topic about this. But to really just sum this all up, I know I gave a lot of information here. It's all about being attached or identified with the universe, which is what yoga is. And that's it. There's nothing wrong with being attached to that. But the moment you're attached or identified with something smaller, whether it's your body, your mind, your people, religion, girls, guys, all these things, that's where it leads down to the egoic growth, or the growth of the ego, as Eckhart says, and fuels that, which is eventually what leads to the destruction, because mind without awareness is like a wild animal without any sort of, let's call it, it's like the Godzilla or King Kong roaming New York City, essentially. They could be used for great things if they had the awareness. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you taking this time. And again, don't forget to comment down what you felt about this topic. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment down below. With that, make it a great day. Take it joyfully and stay conscious. Ecstasy.